He was sitting right across from me, still holding a spoonful of oatmeal. I had only turned away for maybe a minute when I heard a soft bump against the table. I looked back, and something wasn't right. His mouth had drooped on one side. His eyes weren't looking straight ahead. He wasn't speaking. I called his name, once. Twice. No response. And in that moment, I knew something was terribly wrong. But I didn't know what it was. I had never seen a stroke before. I didn't recognize the signs. But deep down, I felt something I couldn't ignore: fear. So many people have been in the exact same situation. They see a loved one suddenly seem off, confused, off balance, a little slurred. Then, just as quickly, it passes. They smile weakly. They say, "I'm fine." They get up, pretend to shake it off. And we believe them. But that's the deadly mistake. What you just saw might have been a mini-stroke, also called a transient ischemic attack or TIA. It often lasts just a few minutes. The signs are subtle. No sharp pain. No collapse like we expect from a real stroke. And that's the danger. Because when things go back to normal, we let it go. We think it passed. But in that moment, your loved one could be standing on the razor's edge, between recovery and lifelong disability. Studies show that after a mini-stroke, your chance of having a major stroke skyrockets within the next 90 days. And here's what's even scarier. Most people don't even know they had one. I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying it to wake you up. Because if you're in your 50s or 60s, or if you're caring for someone who is, this might be the most important video you'll ever watch. I don't want you to say, "I wish I had known sooner." I want you to know now, before it's too late. A mini-stroke can be the last warning you get. Or it could be your one and only chance to stop something irreversible. And the thing that makes the difference is what you're about to learn in the next few minutes. When the symptoms disappear, most people breathe a sigh of relief. They think it's over. They convince themselves it was just fatigue, a little dizziness, nothing serious. They go to bed, or go on with their day like nothing happened. But the real danger? It starts right there. A mini-stroke, or TIA, a transient ischemic attack, happens when blood flow to the brain is blocked temporarily. During those few minutes, your brain is starved of oxygen. Neurons begin to panic. If you're lucky, the clot dissolves on its own. Blood flows again. The symptoms fade. You feel fine. But that feeling of being fine is the trap. Unlike a major stroke that knocks you off your feet, a mini-stroke leaves no obvious damage, at least not at first. It feels like a small glitch. But in truth, it's a loud, urgent alarm, and if you don't pay attention, the next step could be irreversible. Mini-strokes often get ignored because they happen fast. No one calls 911. No trip to the ER. Doctors never get the chance to assess it. That's why major strokes often follow, just days, or even hours, after a missed mini-stroke. This isn't a theory. This is data. Hundreds of thousands of people each year experience a TIA and don't realize it. And according to the American Stroke Association, about 1 in 5 of them will go on to have a full stroke, within just 90 days. Some, within 24 hours. Even more alarming, mini-strokes don't always come with obvious symptoms. Some people feel a brief wave of dizziness. Others lose vision in one eye for a minute or two. Some stop mid-sentence and forget what they were saying, then pick back up like nothing happened. All of these could be warnings. And too often, they're missed. Mini strokes are not harmless. Even if the symptoms fade, damage may have already started, silently, inside the brain. When left unchecked or repeated, these tiny attacks can build up over time and cause long-term changes. Memory loss, difficulty focusing, mood swings, disorientation, even early signs of dementia. And then, when the full stroke finally hits, it's too late to undo it. Older adults are especially at risk. As we age, blood vessels stiffen, blood pressure rises, cholesterol builds, the heart slows down, blood moves more sluggishly. A single blocked vessel, for just a few seconds, is all it takes for the brain to go into emergency mode. But if you understand this, you don't have to wait for disaster to act. We can't stop aging, but we can listen to our bodies. We can recognize early signs and step in before things spiral. A mini stroke is often the second chance life gives you. If you grab it, you just might prevent something far, far worse. So remember, "I feel fine now" is not a reason to relax. It's a reason to take your health more seriously than ever. This might be the most important part of the video. And I'm not saying that to be dramatic. I'm saying it because it could save a life. What I'm about to share with you, these 8 signs, could be the only chance you have to help someone you love, or even yourself, avoid a devastating stroke. Because what you notice in just 1 minute could decide whether the rest of someone's life is spent living normally, or living in a bed. Let's start with the first sign. 1. Sudden dizziness without clear reason. This isn't the kind of lightheadedness you get from standing up too fast or skipping breakfast. It's the feeling that the world is spinning, even when you're sitting still. Your balance disappears. You can't walk straight, but you're still conscious. It might happen while you're watching TV, in the middle of a conversation, and it might only last a few minutes. That's not just fatigue. That's your brain saying, "I'm not getting enough blood." 2. Numbness or weakness on one side of the body. People often blame this on a bad sleeping position or overuse. But if you suddenly can't grip a cup, or your arm won't lift like it usually does, stop. If your smile looks uneven, if one side of your face doesn't respond, that's an emergency. Stroke often hits one side of the brain, so the symptoms show up on one side of the body. 3. Slurred or distorted speech. You may still understand what others are saying, but your own words come out wrong. Some people stutter. Others sound like they're mumbling or holding something in their mouth. And some can't find the words at all. One woman shared that her husband was telling a story, then suddenly stopped mid-sentence. He knew what he wanted to say, but couldn't say it. A few minutes later, he spoke normally again. They thought it was nothing. 2 weeks later, he had a major stroke. And this time, he never spoke again. 4. Temporary vision loss. Some people suddenly lose sight in one eye, like a curtain of fog dropped down. Others lose sight in just the left or right side of their field of view. Sometimes, they don't even realize it, they just say, "Something feels off." That's not your eyes failing. That's the brain struggling to process visual signals due to lack of oxygen. 5. Sudden confusion or trouble focusing. They're talking to you, then suddenly stare blankly. They forget what they were saying. They pick up a glass, put it down, then pick it up again, unsure if they've already had a sip. This isn't senior moments. It's a temporary disconnect between memory centers in the brain. Do not ignore this, even if it passes quickly. It could be the brain's first cry for help. 6. Disorientation or memory loss. Some people become confused about where they are. They forget the date. They don't recognize the person in front of them, even if it's someone they love. These moments can come and go quickly. And if you're not there to see it, they might just say, "I felt a little off earlier." Please, don't let that warning slip past you. 7. Sudden, intense headache. Some describe it as if their head is being squeezed from the inside. It can be mistaken for a migraine, but this pain is different. It comes on suddenly. No warning. And it's not something they've felt before. If that headache is paired with dizziness, facial numbness, or speech trouble, you don't have time to wait. 8. Unusual behavior or hallucinations. One elderly man told his doctor he saw a stranger standing in his kitchen. He had no history of mental illness. Turns out, he'd suffered a mini-stroke that affected the parts of the brain responsible for visual and emotional processing. These experiences are often brushed aside, or hidden out of embarrassment. But if someone you love starts acting strangely, speaking to no one, staring off, or making comments that don't match reality, pay attention. 8 signs, 8 alarms. And in many cases, just one is enough to act. You don't need to wait for them all. You don't need to diagnose it perfectly. You only need to remember this. If something feels off, call emergency services. Don't guess. Don't wait. Don't ignore it. If someone has just shown one of the signs we talked about, your job is not to guess. You don't need to figure out if it's a mini-stroke or not. You need to act. And every second matters. There's a simple test recommended by doctors across the US. It's called FAST. Yes, it means fast. But it also stands for 4 critical steps that can help you spot a stroke in real time. F is for face. Ask the person to smile. If one side doesn't move, or the smile looks crooked or uneven, that's a clear sign the facial muscles are affected. This usually happens when the part of the brain that controls the face isn't getting enough blood. One side still works. The other goes quiet. A is for arms. Ask them to raise both arms straight out in front of them, and hold them up. If one arm drifts down or can't stay up, even just for a few seconds, that's a warning. Loss of control. Weakness on one side. It's one of the earliest signs of stroke-related paralysis. S is for speech. Ask them to repeat a simple sentence like, "Today is a sunny day." If they slur their words, if they can't pronounce clearly, if they can't repeat the sentence at all, that's not tiredness. That's not lack of sleep. That's a brain in distress. T is for time. If any of the above signs appear, you don't wait. You don't monitor. You don't check blood pressure or try to walk it off. You call 911 immediately. Because in a stroke, time is brain. Every minute, millions of brain cells can be permanently damaged. Let the paramedics and doctors figure it out. You are not guessing games with someone's life. One more thing I need you to remember. You don't need to be a medical expert to recognize a mini-stroke. You don't need to know the Latin terms. You just need to pay attention. And when you see something off, act fast. Mini-strokes don't wait. And when they strike, you have a very short window to do the right thing. Now, some people will say, "I don't want to overreact." But let me put it this way. If you call for help and everything turns out fine, great. But if you don't call, and it was a mini-stroke? There may not be a second chance. You don't need to understand all of medicine to protect someone you love. You only need to know this. Any sudden change, in walking, speaking, vision, or facial movement, especially in someone over 50, deserves to be treated like a real emergency. Every second is precious. Trust your gut. Don't wait. You've probably heard of FAST before. Maybe on TV. Maybe on a hospital flyer. But hearing it is one thing. Remembering it, and using it when it matters, is something else entirely. And I get it. When something actually happens, your mind goes blank. The slogans, the posters, they disappear. That's why I want you to see FAST as more than just a set of letters. It's not a memory trick. It's a rescue plan, a 60-second routine that could literally change the course of someone's life. When a loved one suddenly slurs their speech, when their smile looks uneven, when their arm won't lift, most people freeze. They hesitate. They tell themselves, maybe it's nothing. And in those silent moments, time slips away. Nobody calls. Nobody moves. And by the time they collapse, it's too late. FAST was created to break that silence. To turn hesitation into immediate action, right there at home. Each letter is a trigger. A mental emergency brake for a moment spiraling out of control. You don't need tools. You don't need medical training. You just need to be there, and do the simplest things. Look at their face. Ask them to smile. Raise both arms. See if one drifts. Check their speech. Ask them to repeat a short sentence. And if something's off, time to call 911. Don't wait. Don't guess. Don't see if it goes away. Some people say, what if I overreact? But I ask this instead. What if you don't react? We all have a tendency to downplay what we don't fully understand. But strokes, including mini-strokes, are not something to gamble with. FAST is not a memory game. It's a lifeline. It's how you turn fear and confusion into a clear, life-saving decision. I once heard an elderly woman say, through tears, I was standing right there, and I did nothing. I thought he was just tired. That one sentence stayed with her for years. You don't have to carry that. You can choose differently. You can act. Just by remembering 3 simple moves, and not hesitating to make the call. FAST doesn't ask you to be perfect. It only asks you to care enough. To be alert. To be brave enough to call for help when something's not right. If you care for an aging parent, or if you're approaching your 60s yourself, practice FAST. Make it second nature. Don't wait for symptoms to start learning it. Train now. Build the reflex before the emergency ever comes. And teach it to someone else too. 1 minute can save a lifetime. 1 phone call can protect a smile, a memory, a life. And no doctor in the world can bring those back. If you wait too long. A mini-stroke doesn't happen because of bad luck. It's not like tripping over a rock. It's the result of years of silent damage to the body. Damage most people never even notice. And the painful truth? Many don't pay attention to the warnings until it's already too late. We need to stop looking at health as something that happens in a moment. It's a process. Because the things that lead to a mini-stroke don't shout. They don't scream. They whisper. Slowly eating away from the inside, day after day. High blood pressure is one of the worst offenders. Some people live their whole lives not knowing they have it, because it doesn't always come with symptoms. No headaches, no shortness of breath, no dizziness. And that's exactly why it's dangerous. It quietly pushes and wears down your blood vessels, until one weak spot clogs up and cuts off the brain. Cholesterol is another. You don't feel it, you don't see it, but it builds inside your arteries, like rust in a water pipe. Over time, blood doesn't flow as easily. Blockages start forming, and one tiny clot in the wrong place, and everything stops. Diabetes does more than raise blood sugar. It weakens the small blood vessels. It thickens the blood. It slows circulation. And when blood moves slowly, clots form more easily. The brain gets less oxygen. Piece by piece, the most precious parts of your brain begin to shut down. And then there's inactivity. Too much sitting. Too little movement. No exercise. Blood slows down. It pools. It stagnates. It doesn't clean. It doesn't carry oxygen. And eventually, it clots. I've known people who don't eat salty foods, don't smoke, but still suffer a mini stroke, just because they let stress and anxiety rule their days. Every burst of anger makes your heart race. Your blood vessels tighten. Every sleepless night leaves your brain unrepaired. Your body off balance. Stress isn't just a feeling. It's a slow-working poison. I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying this so you can see the enemy you're living with. And realize, you can still do something about it. You can check your blood pressure at the pharmacy, 2 minutes. That's it. You can ask your doctor to test your cholesterol and blood sugar, just a simple blood draw. You can go for a 15-minute walk each morning. All you need is a good pair of shoes. You can turn your phone off 1 hour before bed, and give your mind a rest. You can breathe deeply every time you feel anger rising. And remind yourself, nothing is worth sacrificing my health. Health doesn't have to be complicated. It's about small things done consistently. It's about caring for yourself, the same way you care for someone you love. And if you're in your 60s, 70s, or beyond, it matters even more. Because your body may be older. Yes, but it's still showing up for you. Every day. And with just a little care. It can keep doing that for a long time to come. We can't turn back time. But we can move forward, without letting aging become a path full of landmines. I don't know where you are in life as you're watching this. Maybe you're worried about your own health. Maybe you're caring for the person who's walked beside you for decades. Maybe you're looking after a parent, someone whose steps have slowed, whose memory sometimes fades. But whatever brought you here, I believe one thing for certain. You care. And that care, that attention, might be the thing that changes everything. Mini strokes don't discriminate. They don't care if you've lived a healthy life or used to smoke. All it takes is one moment, one gap in our awareness, and they strike. But if you listen to your body, if you notice even the smallest changes in a loved one, if you act early, you can change the ending. You don't have to be a doctor to save someone from a stroke. You just need to watch, listen, react. Because I feel fine doesn't always mean I am fine. Please, don't wait until someone you love is lying motionless. Before you ask yourself, why didn't I do something sooner? Here's what I believe with all my heart. People over 60 are not weak. They've survived wars. They've lived through loss, illness, hardship. They've built families, careers, communities. And because they've been through so much, they deserve a future that's safer, more in control, lived with clarity of mind and steady feet. No one wants to become a burden to their children. No one wants to end up in a hospital bed, just because a small warning sign was brushed off. I made this video not because I have the facts, but because I've seen the regret. I've watched a 70-year-old woman holding her husband's hand in the ICU, whispering, "I heard you slurring, I thought you just needed a nap." She wasn't at fault. But if someone had told her what to look for, if someone had told her that just a few minutes could mean the difference between recovery and goodbye, maybe he wouldn't have been lying there, silent, unable to say that one last word. So today, I'm saying this clearly, not to scare you, but to remind you that you have the power to change that outcome. From this moment on, you have a new skill. You have knowledge, you have a reflex, and more importantly, you have a chance to never have to say, "if only." If this video meant something to you, please don't keep it to yourself. Send it to your partner, your sister, your brother-in-law, your Saturday morning golf buddies. Because sometimes, one video, at the right moment, doesn't just share knowledge. It shares hope. And if you're still wondering, do I really need to worry this much? Just remember, no one ever regrets acting early. But far too many live with the pain of doing nothing. So starting today, get your checkups. Ask your doctor about blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes. Set an alarm to go for that morning walk. Get enough sleep. Care for your body, the one that's carried you this far. And most of all, don't let a mini-stroke decide the rest of your life. You have a choice, and you can start making it today.